Hi, I'm Graham, and this is Help Me Handyman Graham, the series where I help someone with a custom DIY solution to help solve a problem and make a change in their space, and show how you can do it too from start to finish. I'm combining all of my skills and special interests like thrifting, upcycling, sidewalk and marketplace finds, and if I really have to, I'll buy some new stuff too. All with the goal of making something beautiful and functional for each person and project. I am back with episode 3 of this series, and I'm so excited to be back. I absolutely loved episode 2 where we helped out Shadera and Toby. If you haven't checked out that episode, I highly recommend it because I think it was some of my best work.
Oh, what? That is so... What? It looks like the Pinterest picture. Oh. Wow, this is so good.
And apparently you guys loved it too, and thank you so much for your support with this brand new series. For today's episode, we're helping Allie with a solution to a problem she's having in her living room, so let's jump on a call with her and see what's going on. Hey Allie, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. First things first, I would love to know what's going on in your space. What do you need help with?
Well, I recently replaced my coffee table with an Ottoman because I wanted something for lounging.
And this is in your living room area?
Living room, yeah. Now I'm missing something that gives me a proper surface for having people over, like playing board games, putting down drinks, etc.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for kind of a tabletop that can sit on top of the Ottoman and give me a stable, larger surface. But at the same time, I don't really want a permanent table there.
Okay, something you can take away. Because you want to be able to put your feet up on the comfy ottoman.
Yes.
When you're watching TV.
But then, fold it up and put it away.
Do you have a favorite type of board game you like to play?
I love Yahtzee. I'm a little bit too competitive with Yahtzee. So I think there's a couple of inspo picks that have, what do you call it, an edge that, so if we did play Yahtzee and you had dice, that it wouldn't fall off.
All right, sounds good.
So something obviously lightweight.
Right, probably going to be pulling it out, putting it away relatively frequently, would you say?
Probably at least once a day. So I would like to have something that I can put on top that's not just a surface, but also keeps my cat from using it as a bed overnight, generally.
Okay, so what I'm getting is you have a comfy ottoman, you like to put your feet up on, but you want a solid surface so you can put drinks on, board games, maybe even eat at your couch, which I love to do personally.
Yeah.
And something that you can put away easily, so it can't be too heavy. And is there a place in your apartment that you'd be able to maybe stash this out of sight?
Yeah, there's a few options. Put it under my couch. I think there's room, but then beside my couch, there's room between the couch and the wall, and I can put it there.
Maybe having it on wheels or something, so you can have it kind of hovering over your ottoman, and you can kind of shift it off to the side, and maybe you can get the best of both worlds, where you can have the comfy ottoman exposed but have your drink and off to the side as well.
That could totally work too. I trust your judgment.
And so just looking at the inspo photos that you sent over, these are all really beautiful. Do you want to describe the style that you are going after?
I don't know what you would call this style. Obviously there's lots of wood there. I'm open to wood, whatever kind of works best. I guess something minimal, clean lines, because I guess my living room is pretty in that style. Nothing
too messy, something simple. Yeah.
And obviously bonus points for something that is a flower edge. Anything that's not just, a rectangle. Keep it interesting, but,
Yeah, because your ottoman right now is just a cube, right? So something that kind of elevates the look of it at the same time, almost.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, and I noticed you have a little seat table in the corner. Is that kind of the wood tone that you're kind of going after?
There's definitely that darker wood, and my floors are pretty dark as well. I have a lot of mix of wood tones. My desk is quite light, so there's definitely room to play around.
Yeah, mahogany or walnut wood tones. Oh, and one other thing is your ottoman is quite large, right? Are you looking for something that kind of covers the entire ottoman?
Yeah, I think I would prefer something that fully covered it. Can leave, 2 to 3 inches around the outside.
Yeah, I think this is really good stuff. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to working with some quality materials, and I can't wait to show you what I come up with on reveal day.
Me too. Looking forward to it.
Guys, as you know, I'm a pretty active guy. I try to run 30 kilometers a week, try to hit the gym 3-4 times a week if I'm lucky. All of that on top of shooting big makeovers with Alexandra Gator, hauling equipment back and forth, and of course doing some amazing Handyman Graham projects. So it's essential that during my downtime, I'm both eating well and sleeping well, and that's where AG1 comes in. I've been keeping really consistent with drinking AG1 Next Gen every morning, and I'm really happy that it's part of my routine. One travel pack of AG1 Next Gen delivers 35 plus ingredients covering your multivitamins, pre and probiotics, superfoods, and more in one clinically studied daily health drink. It has key nutrients that are shown to be quickly and easily absorbed into the body. I like the travel packs because I can bring it on the go, whether I'm working on a project at the workshop, or in the truck heading to a makeover, or even in the parking lot at the hardware store. AG1 Next Gen provides energy support, which is important to me so I don't have an afternoon crash, with superfoods and B vitamins. It also provides nutritional support to help fill in those common nutrient gaps while keeping the body nourished. So scan the QR code here or head on over to ag1.com/handymangram to get your free AG1 flavor sample. And get your free bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2 in your welcome kit with your first AG1 subscription order. Thanks to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. So pretty much what I got from the call with Allie is that she wants a table that she can place over top of her Ottoman that looks permanent and intentionally placed while being able to fold it away and stash it maybe under her couch or something. Just looking at Allie's inspo, she's included a whole bunch of different amazing tables. The elements that I'm interested in are like these like daisy floral shapes on this one table. There's also like this beveled edge on this table that kind of keeps all of the items on the table like contained. While on this other table, there's like this waterfall edge that kind of like covers the entire side of the Ottoman. So the Ottoman is out of sight when the table is on top of it. So having all these characteristics in mind, I think it's time to kind of draw this down on paper and see if I can kind of create some ideas here. Allie's Ottoman measures 36 inches long, 33 inches wide, and 16 inches tall. So I'm thinking that this table is actually gonna have to be pretty large to cover this entire Ottoman. I'm thinking about making the tabletop like this floral shaped with like a beveled edge that goes all the way around it to contain any board game pieces or in the event that a cup spills. Because Allie said in the call that she might not want to stash the table 100% of the time, I'm thinking about adding some concealed wheels underneath the legs so that she can simply just kind of push the Ottoman table out of the way. I don't think the legs need to be all that decorative because these legs are going to be folding underneath the table and will never be seen when it's out of sight. I just want this table to be as easily maneuverable as possible for Allie because it's probably going to be a little bit on the heavier side because we're going to be making this out of some really nice quality hardwood, which means I'm gonna have to build something from scratch. I'm heading over to Exotic Woods, which is my local specialty lumber supplier in the city, and we're gonna see what I can find. Allie posted a lot of photos of some like darker woods like mahogany or walnut, which I know can be pretty expensive, so I'm gonna see what I can find on a budget. The trick is to calculate your board footage before you land on a specific type of wood. There's a board footage calculator that I will link below that you guys can use. If you do jump over to a lumber store, you can calculate the board footage before you get to the cash register so that you're not shocked at how much the lumber is. So I actually found some African mahogany at Exotic Woods, which is within the budget. Mahogany, as you know, has a beautiful color, a really nice grain. It's durable, it's a hardwood, so this is perfect for a tabletop. And African mahogany is totally within the color scheme of all the different wood tones that Allie posted, so I'm really excited. As I'm calculating the board footage here, I'm also calculating enough board footage to build the legs out of it as well. As I'm looking at the mahogany, I'm trying to not only find straight pieces, but also pieces that have a similar wood grain and color tone. I'm also grabbing some new finish that I haven't tried before. I'm always just trying to find an excuse to try new products and stuff, so I think this project is a perfect example of that. So I'm just throwing everything in the back of the truck and heading back to the workshop. All right, I got the wood for the table, which is exciting. And yeah, I picked up a lot of African mahogany because I think it's gonna be like the perfect color. I was looking at walnut, but walnut was significantly more expensive. And I've worked with walnut so much that it's really not a challenge for me. I wanna experience like new types of wood and like, yeah, just kind of increase my woodworker knowledge and repertoire. I feel pretty good about it. And I'm looking forward to working with this wood. If I were to do the same thing over and over and over again, then I wouldn't really grow as a woodworker. So I want to intentionally challenge myself, get that experience under my belt so that I can go to the next project with even more knowledge and experience than I did before. So it's starting to rain. I have about an hour drive back to Toronto. I'm going to put some music on and enjoy the drive. So I will see you guys back at the workshop. Okay, I got the wood back in the workshop. It looks really great. I think the total for all of this mahogany cost $175. Building something from scratch, obviously, everyone's like, why don't you build that table from scratch? Why don't you build that shoe bench from scratch? It's because it costs a lot of money. Raw materials, depends where you are, but right now in Canada, they're pretty expensive. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boards. One of those boards I'm gonna cut in half, so that's technically 8 boards. I'm just having a really hard time right now trying to figure out the size of this Ottoman table. Allie needs to be able to play games on it. She needs to be able to eat on it, drink on it, put candles and maybe a light and some flowers and some table books and all this sort of stuff. Allie's Ottoman right now, it measures 36 by 34 inches. And the depth of her couch is 34 inches. So I just need to know like how big or small this needs to be. And so I think before I get started on building the tabletop, because that's gonna be the first thing I do, I think I need to pick up a board game. And I'm gonna put the board game on the table, draw out the shape of the table on the wood with some chalk, just make sure that I'm gonna make this big enough for a board game, small enough to fit under the couch. I'm gonna hit up Valley Village, I'm gonna pick up a board game, see what they got. It's a little rainy. My tip for you guys, if you are buying board games at Valley Village, open it up on the floor and make sure it has all the pieces. Because I've been burned before in the past. Fun story, I got Mousetrap from the thrift store and I made a big deal about it with the team. And then when I went to go build the Mousetrap game on lunch break one time, it didn't have any of the pieces. So learn from my mistakes. I'm picking up Monopoly, Scrabble, Operation, and another Mousetrap for research purposes. Okay, I'm gonna head back to the workshop and inspect our haul. All right, let's see what we got. Okay, old school Monopoly. This box has seen better days for sure. Let's just see see if there's a copyright thing on here. 1961, that is sick. It's a really nice, I don't know if you can tell, really nice like alligator backing to it. It's really, really pretty. The properties are all really cool. These are all really neat. So yeah, I made sure at the thrift store that all the pieces were here. So we got Monopoly from 1961, Operation. This one looks old, but I don't think it really is. 2003. The reason why I got this one is because all the pieces are in a little bag. All of the cards are in this little tin. Whoever owned this before donating was extremely type A, and that's what I love to see. Don't donate a game that doesn't have all the parts, because you're just gonna make some kid upset. Then I have Mousetrap, an old Scrabble. This one looks like it is from the 80s. Yeah, this is from 1983. Just love the color of the box. It's just this like nice maroon color, and the board is just so classic. So again, just made sure all the pieces were here. I got this little vase. I just really liked the floral shape of the rim here. It's very much in Allie's inspo photos. So yeah, just gonna style it with some flowers. And then I got some coffee table books. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of cultivate the gaming culture before getting started on this table, just so I can keep that in the back of my mind as I'm making the tabletop. Before I get started on this table, I need to get inside the mind of a board game, of what a board game needs from a board game table. But all jokes aside, no, I need to know like the dimensions of like the board and make sure that there's room for like a drink next to the board, Monopoly money, pieces. So I picked up Mousetrap from the thrift store. It looked like it had all the pieces. I didn't take it apart like I did with the Monopoly and make sure I had all the properties. I kind of just took a look at it, and when I saw the marble, I knew that it probably had all the pieces here. It's got all the guys here, the little mice. I'm gonna put this together in order to get inside the mind of a board game. here's what I'm thinking. If I make this ottoman table the same size as her ottoman, it's gonna be a little obnoxious, a little large. So I'm thinking about making this table a little bit longer in shape and a little bit narrower. Obviously I have my mouse trap here, just to give me like a rough idea of like what size I need this to be to accommodate a board game, while also providing enough room for drinks, maybe some snacks, a bowl of popcorn, chips, etc., while being able to give it a nice shape. So I've kind of landed on like 28 inches. I think it's a really good width for this tabletop. Also, you know, she'll be able to frame this table in the center of the ottoman so that like the dark brown of the ottoman would be contrasted with the wood tones of the mahogany. I'm probably gonna go 28 by 48. Just seems like a nice like rectangle size. I'm gonna select some nice wood pieces that I want the tabletop to be composed of. I'm gonna cut them down roughly to about 48 inches each on the miter saw, and then I'm gonna start planing them and gluing them all together. And hopefully I can get this tabletop glued before I leave for the day. All right, and break. Okay, now it's time to actually start making this thing, and I'm gonna start with the tabletop. I'm cutting down the lumber to 48-inch lengths, and I'm putting the offcuts aside because I'm gonna make the legs out of those later. I'm using my table saw and a table saw jig just to create perfectly straight edges along each board. Once the boards have a straight edge, I'm flipping the boards over and running it back through the table saw to create perfect parallel edges. Because I spent that extra time at the lumber yard finding the straightest pieces, I really don't have to actually do that much to flatten these pieces, so I can just jump straight into the glue up. I'm using my biscuit joiner to create some grooves into each piece and applying a liberal amount of wood glue and some biscuits and clamping everything together with some pipe clamps. Good morning. I just got a haircut and I just removed all the clamps from the tabletop. So usually like when you're jointing boards together, you need to plane the first face, plane the second face, take it over to a thickness planer, plane the third face, take it over to a table saw, and cut that fourth face because it's a rectangle, has 4 faces to it. I took a big shortcut and I only cut the edges with my table saw. So I skipped all 4 steps and I just did 1 step. Generally you want to follow those steps of procedure in order to make a proper tabletop, and normally I would, but I spent the extra time at the lumber yard and I found the flattest pieces possible, and I am very pleasantly surprised with how flat this is. It saved me a lot of time and effort. I'm gonna jump over to the legs. I'm gonna glue those together just like I glued this panel together, and then while the glue is drying, I can come back to the tabletop and cut it up and shape it and all that sort of stuff. I'm following the exact same process to make the table legs that I did for the tabletop. I'm running each piece through my table saw with a table saw jig to create a perfectly straight edge, flipping that piece over, making a perfectly straight parallel edge, and then gluing everything together with my biscuit joiner, biscuits, and wood glue. Now that the wood glue is dry on the tabletop, I'm cleaning up the dried wood glue using my belt sander with a 50 grit sandpaper. Now that the tabletop is cleaned up from all the dried wood glue, I can start planning this floral shape around the edges. I'm gonna use this plunger to trace my little floral design on this baby. I just really like the size of this circle. So I'm gonna kind of cut out a little tulip shape. I think I'm just gonna make my life a little bit easier and keep this table rectangular as much as I can, all the while giving it that nice little floral look. Give it that little pizzazz. So I'm just gonna trace this plunger. I'm gonna space them equally apart. This table is a weird size. We've got 26 3/4. This plunger, 5.5. 26 3/4 divided by 5.5 divided by the spaces between. No, we're not doing that. This is not sponsored by any means, but I found this product recently. It's an app on my phone called TapeMate. I open up TapeMate and we have normal calculator up top, but what we got down here is we got fractions. What this does is it allows you to calculate fractions by using a tape measure. I have been struggling so hard with Google, like, what is 5 7/16 divided by 3, right? It gets very complicated very quickly, and then Google will give me, oh, well, that's 1 33/64 or whatever it is. And I'm like, well, that's not what I need. I need to know the number for a tape measure so that I can mark it down on the piece of wood using a common tape measure. And this allows you to do it. So I've got this plunger, it's 5.5 inches. Boom, 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 boom. So I trace the plunger, I move it, I trace the plunger, I move it, I trace the plunger, I move it over one more time, and then I have 4 1/4 inches of space that I need to move these plungers apart. So I need to figure out what 4 1/4 is divided by 3, because there's 4 plunger circles with 3 spaces in between. 4 1/4 divided by 3 equals 1 inch 7/16. So therefore I know there needs to be 1 inch and 7/16 in between each and every single plunger circle. Let's see here, 7/16. Boom, I'm gonna trace this. Okay, trace that. Okay, one more. Oh yeah, they're perfectly spaced apart. That is awesome. I'll include a link in the description down below for this awesome calculator. I find it so handy. It takes out a lot of frustration and time and energy using this calculator. Anyways, I'm gonna get back to making these plunger circles. Just for the record, this toilet plunger is clean. I hunted high and low for something in the workshop that had like a circle that was the perfect size that I wanted to trace. And the thing that I actually landed on was actually a toilet plunger. I'm using the toilet plunger and tracing some circles. Once all the circles are traced onto the tabletop, I'm cutting out the semicircles using my jigsaw. My tip for you guys is, even though we traced the toilet plunger perfectly all the way around, I'm just leaving the tiniest little bit of material just on the outside edge of the pencil marks, because we're gonna be sanding this down and we don't wanna sand away our perfectly mathed out edge. So I'm just gonna spend a little bit more time down the road sanding just to make this as perfect as possible. Now that everything's cut out with the jigsaw, I'm starting to think that maybe it will be too much sanding. So I'm gonna make a little template for my flush cut router bit and go in with my router just to try to round everything down a little bit more before sanding. Because mahogany is a hardwood, it takes a lot more effort to sand than like a softwood. So by going in with my router and a flush cut router bit, it's probably gonna save me a couple hours down the road. If you've ever used a jigsaw, it's like impossible to get like a perfect cut, or at least for me. So this router is just gonna make those semicircles a little bit more perfect before we go into sand. Nice. All right, wow. That proved actually to be a lot more challenging than I thought. Like, I've done this before, you know, create a little router template and just kind of follow the template with your router, and you use the flush cut trim bit. But I found that like mahogany was just splitting so easy. I really had to go in with a lot of really, really light passes, else the wood would just tear out and explode. Guys, come on, chewing this f***ing shit. f***ing pieces. Fuck me. So I'm gonna have to go in and like wood fill just a couple little spots, but for the most part, it turned out really well. Pretty happy with it. I'm gonna put the tabletop on pause for the time being, and I'm gonna cut up the legs. Now that I know the rough size of this, I can cut these legs down and kind of just get like a rough table somewhat put together. There's not that much I really have to do for the table legs. We're gonna keep them just like a nice square piece of wood. I'm just cutting the legs down using my track saw and a table saw and putting them away for later. So to make the raised decorative edge that goes around the wavy tabletop, I have to make like a picture frame that I'm gonna glue to the tabletop. To create this raised decorative edge, I'm cutting a mahogany board right down the middle and opening it up like a book. Just to clean up that rough cut, I'm setting the boards through my thickness planer and bringing everything down to the same thickness. So I'm using my table saw and a table saw sled to cut these picture frame pieces out, but you'll notice that I'm cutting some very small pieces. I'm gonna be gluing these pieces together. I can make this job a lot easier for me if I just cut 4 big pieces, glued them together to make this picture frame, but I have to cut multiple pieces and glue them so all the wood grain is facing the same direction. And this is because wood grain expands and contracts with like humidity and stuff. So if I were to glue those pieces so that the wood grain was like going in different directions, it would pull the tabletop apart in different directions and cause it to split. So I have to make sure the grain faces the same direction so that the expansion of the table and pieces all happens together and there won't be any splits. And using every single clamp I have, as well as every single clamp my neighbor has too, and just setting it aside until the wood glue dries. Okay, so now that the wood glue is dry, I'm sanding everything down using my 50 grit belt sander and a 60 grit random orbital sander and trying to get this as flat as possible. I'm placing the tabletop on top of the frame and tracing the outline of the tabletop onto the bottom of the frame. I'm using my compass with about 1.5 inch gap and just tracing the squiggles by hand to create that inside edge. Now that everything's traced, I'm cutting out the inside edge using my jigsaw. I need to finish the inside edge before I glue this to the tabletop because I won't be able to go in there with my router. It'll be almost impossible to sand once it's glued down. So I'm finishing the inside edge off by rounding the inside edge with a roundover bit and a router. Now that the decorative edge has been cut out and sanded, it's time to glue it to the tabletop. I'm applying glue to the bottom of the decorative edge and not the tabletop. Usually I apply glue to both pieces, but in this case, I'm only applying it to the decorative edge because I don't want any extra wood glue to end up on the tabletop. I'm lining everything up and clamping everything together with as many clamps as I can find. I'm using as many cauls as possible. These are just straight pieces of wood that I'm just having go all over the decorative edge just because there's too many edges to clamp. So I'm just trying to make sure everything is all squeezed together because I don't want any point of the decorative edge to be lifted up off the surface. So now the wood glue is all dry, it's time to cut out that outside edge of the decorative trim. Before I go in with my router, I'm gonna cut away as much of the material from the outside edge as possible just to make that job a little bit easier. Using the tabletop as a template, I'm cutting away the excess material from the decorative trim using my router. So now that the decorative trim is cut, I'm rounding the top edge and the bottom edge of the tabletop using my router with a roundover bit. Okay, so I'm just about to sand down the tabletop. And there are so many inside edges I gotta sand. And I was kind of thinking how I can save time on this. If any one of you have ever picked up sandpaper before, you know how tricky it is to sand an inside corner. Well, this whole tabletop is just inside edges. I tried to sand down the table before gluing the trim on top, but now I got a little bit of glue residue left behind, so I gotta sand that down. So I wanna show you what I've come up with. I've got little Velcro pads. I got these at the dollar store. I cut this block of wood out using a hole saw. That's the same diameter as the inside squiggles, so that I can use the Velcro to attach it to my random orbital sander, right? And then I'm gonna put Velcro on this side so that I can attach the Velcro sanding pads to this circular sanding block. So I'll be able to go up right to the inside of those circles and squiggles and sand everything down. So I'm gonna see if this works. I'm using some contact cement to glue these strips down because contact cement is like a very permanent bond. I've got a double-sided block of wood. I'm gonna cut the Velcro off carefully into a perfect circle, and then I can attach this to the sander. So stick with me, let me see if this works. Okay, this is actually working really, really well. I'm just going in with a random orbital sander and some hand sandpaper and just taking my time, working my way through the grits, starting at 80 grit and going all the way up to 220 grit sandpaper. So I just finished sanding this tabletop down and it's looking really, really nice. I think it looks beautiful. So that is ready for finish. So I'm gonna move on over to the legs now. I don't really need to do anything to the legs. I think just keeping them nice and square. I might round the edges a little bit, but besides that, I don't really wanna do too much to it. I don't wanna take away the focus that is the tabletop. So I'm just gonna head on over to the tables here and start sanding them down. We're almost there, believe it or not. For the legs, I'm following the same process, starting at 80 grit sandpaper with a random orbital sander and working my way all the way up to 220 grit sandpaper. However, I'm not rounding the edges here. I'm just kind of softening the edge with some hand sandpaper because I just really love this square profile. How beautiful is this wood? I love how each leg is slightly different. So this one has some contrasting dark and light mahogany, which matches the dark and light mahogany on the tabletop. It would have been cool if both legs were contrasting. I didn't have enough of that wood, unfortunately. So this is still very beautiful. It's got some like iridescent qualities to it, which is really neat. Hopefully I can show you that in the afters. But everything is sanded now, which is so exciting. I cannot believe I got to this point. This was a lot of work, a lot of sanding. So I just wanted to show you how we're gonna have these legs fold up, tuck in underneath this tabletop here. And I'm sure you guys have seen these before, but these are locking heavy duty hinges. Check these out. These have like a little tab here. You pull down and it locks the hinge closed. You pull it up and it locks it into the open position. So this is gonna be just a great solution for these legs to fold underneath the table, lock in that closed position to be able to slide under Allie's couch, but also lock and stay in the open position as well so that there's no movement side to side when they're playing board games or eating. I don't really know if I'm gonna be putting bolts or screws yet, but I think for the time being, just to try this out and make sure everything works, I'm just gonna use screws. I do have some heavy duty threaded inserts. These have a very coarse tooth to it, which is great for softer woods, even better for hardwoods. Mahogany's kind of in between. So this will use bolts rather than screws so that it kind of allows for wood movement a little bit easier. So take a look on your table, on a coffee table, a dining table, and see. You'll see underneath the table that they actually use bolts rather than screws. So the more you know. But just to rough this out for the time being, I'm gonna just put some screws on these legs and just see how everything works. Okay, I'm just gonna see how the table folds and stows away. What Allie's gonna have to do, and I've got some other secrets I'm gonna put on this table that you don't know about yet. I'm not there yet. But what she's gonna have to do, she's gonna have to pull this table out from under her couch. She's gonna flip it up on its side like so, open the legs, and then tilt it up and slide it into place. For Allie to put the table away, she'll tilt it up on its side. She'll pull these latches closed, and then she'll put it down and scoot it under the couch. So I'm gonna leave this for the time being. I don't think I have, I really wanna seal this. I'm not gonna rush it. It's my aunt and uncle's 50th wedding anniversary tonight. I gotta be there in an hour and 20 minutes. I gotta wear a suit. So I gotta tidy up, put on a suit, and then scoot down to the dinner. That's right, scoot in a suit. Okay, I'm gonna leave this as is. I'm gonna come in tomorrow, I'm gonna finish it, put on some little secret additions that I have planned that I think you guys will like, and yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. All right, guys, how sick are these frickin' safety glasses? I found these at the thrift store. Blue and yellow. I found them when I was doing the DIY thrift store toolkit, but I found them too late in the process, so I wasn't able to include them in there. So anyways, okay, it is time to put wheels on this coffee table. So there's gonna be 2 sets of wheels. The first set is so Allie, you know, if she wants to put her feet up on the ottoman, she can kind of push it away. If she wants to like eat dinner or something in front of the TV, she can pull it closer. The second set of wheels is then going to go on the underside of the table so that when the table is folded, she can slide it underneath her couch and it won't scratch the wood. So I'm gonna get going on the first set of wheels, which is when the table is in the open position. And I have these old antique brass wheels. These came from a Victorian era table that was being thrown out. So I'm gonna remove the wheels, clean them up, cut them down to an appropriate size using my angle grinder so that they will look like this. So little tiny brass wheels. I'm probably gonna clean these up with some Brasso later so they're nice and shiny, but it looks like solid gold. So I've just done one just so I could see if it's possible. It is indeed possible. So I'm gonna get going on this. I've got 3 more to do and I'll show you how I did it. I'm using a metal cutoff blade on my angle grinder to cut the wheel to appropriate thickness. And then sanding it all down using a sanding wheel. Now that I have all 4 wheels down to the same thickness, I can then start cutting the mortises and the bottom of the table legs for these wheels to fit in. I'm using my router with a 1/4" router bit and doing multiple shallow passes. It's important to do many small passes here rather than one big cut because I cannot mess these cuts up. This is one of those instances where I just have to concentrate and take my time. Now that the mortises are cut, I'm drilling a small hole through the legs so I can attach an axle for the wheel. I'm just dry fitting the wheels just in case I need to make some small adjustments. All right, so I have the wheels figured out. I have the little slots routed in the bottom of the legs, which is great. So I think I'm pretty much ready to assemble this thing. I know I mentioned a second set of wheels, but I'm gonna do that at the end after this is all finished. That doesn't require any carving of the wood anymore. So all the cutting, everything is all done now. So I'm gonna seal it all up with some finish. I'm gonna let it dry, then I can come in and then I can permanently secure these wheels in place. But it's all looking really, really good right now. That's what I'm gonna do next is just seal the table. Wow, that looks good. So I'm just going with the grain, making sure nothing is pooling. Oh, this looks so good. This looks absolutely incredible. I'm almost speechless right now how incredible this wood is just looking. Magic. So after I get all this applied to the one sides here, I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna hit the top. I put some screws in the hinge holes so that I can flip it over and rest it on the screws so all 6 sides can dry simultaneously. Guys, this looks nuts. It's so easy to apply. There's no measuring, no fiddling around with ratios for the finish. It's absorbing into the wood really well. I'm just gonna like make sure before I flip anything that no extra finish is laying on the surface. Just going with the grain always. Oh, that looks incredible. Now that the sealer has had 24 hours to dry, it's time to put everything back together. For the wheel axle, I'm using some old brass bolts that I got from some knobs. I'm putting a washer on either side of the brass wheel, and this will just prevent the wheel from binding against the wood and just allow it to spin a little bit more freely. As I'm applying the nut, I'm putting some thread locker in place so that these won't ever come loose over time. Okay, look at this. It rolls so well. That's awesome. I'm gonna put this moving blanket on the tabletop, and hopefully this will give us a better representation of what to expect. Oh, easy. It's like I'm not even trying. That's awesome. Okay, I feel very good. Now, it is the time for the second pair of wheels. And that is so when the tabletop is closed in the closed position, she can wheel it under her couch and not scratch the floor or scratch the wood table. Oh my God. It slides perfectly on this moving blanket, which, like I said, is probably about the same thickness as her rug. Yeah. Incredible. The legs aren't supported by anything, so like when she picks it up, there's nothing preventing the legs from opening on their own. So that is problematic. I tried to adjust the hinges so that it would stay locked even in the closed position, but then she'd have no way of getting her fingers like in here to unlock it. So that sucks. So then I was thinking, what if I just put like a little eye and hook situation like this? And then it kind of locks the legs from opening up, but also prevents these legs from going down. I just want this to pop out just the tiniest bit. All right, let's see if this works. Are you serious? That is freaking awesome. Then she just goes like this, opens that, opens these, and these hooks just kind of dangle down, but it's not like it's gonna catch on anything. Or you know what I could do? What if I put a magnet so I hold the hook up, like so? Here, I'm gonna zoom in. The issue I'm having is like, maybe this hook might grab the Ottoman and might rip it, but if I put a magnet here, then it will hold the hook up and prevent it from snagging anything. I think that's the move. All right, I'm gonna do that. I'm using my router just to route out a little cavity for the rare earth magnet to sit inside of so that everything is nice and flush. Okay, that was so much work. I'll just demonstrate how she would open this up. So she would just go like this, pull it out from under her couch, flip it up, flip up these hooks. It attaches to the magnet right away. You open up the doors that lock into place, and then you'd simply just, boom, and roll it into place. So simple, so easy. Yeah, I think I'm done. So the only thing I have to do next is install it in her apartment, and I'm so incredibly happy and excited to put this in her place. I think she's gonna love it. And yeah, just can't wait to see it all styled and ready to go. So next time I see you guys will be on Friday when we take it over to Allie's place. So I will see you guys then. Bye. All right, we're in Allie's apartment. It's time to install this table. I think it's pretty easy. There's no like real tools involved. We just got to kind of place it and style it. So it should be pretty easy and straightforward. Okay, ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Wow.
So I don't like doing scallops because the freaking scallop, you gotta sand the outside and the inside. It's a lot of sanding. It was...
For a man who doesn't like doing scallops, you do a lot of scallops.
We do a lot of scallops. I'm really excited to see this open. Like right away, I can tell the tabletop size is great. So I'm gonna open it up. I'm just gonna put it down. Wow. What I was really worried about was the pile height of the rug. And I didn't want anyone to know that there's wheels under here. Because I wanted this to be like a nice waterfall edge that goes all the way down to the ground.
You can't see the wheel at all.
I know, so that's perfect. Because we kind of need like a little bit of room to be able to fold the legs in easily. I'm just gonna kind of pull this ottoman away in order to flip this over. So we have the locking hinges, so that prevents the legs from closing on their own when it's over top of the ottoman. These are really easy to unlock yourself. I don't really suspect she's gonna be putting this away, taking it out on a daily basis, you know? But when she does need to put it away, she's able to do it by herself without the help of someone else. We have the magnet inlaid in the bottom to keep these hooks out of the way so it doesn't snag the ottoman.
Brilliant.
These lock the legs in place, so when Allie goes to pick up this table, it's just like pretty much like childproofing it, and that she can then pick it up and the legs won't open. These locks also prevent the legs from touching the floor, and then she just wheels it under her couch. And it's pretty hidden. Now we should do the reverse order. Take it out, open the legs, place it. Okay, so she said she wanted a table for eating at, putting drinks on, playing board games on, and I really focused on the board game aspect, so I'm just gonna make sure that this table is big enough and suitable for playing a board game. Okay, so there's enough room for like 4 players or more to play board games or cards. In the spirit of Alexandra Gator, I've got a candle and some coffee table books. Instead of the typical Alexandra Gator coffee table books, putting a little Handyman Graham spin on it. So we have Wood Carving Basics, a complete guide to decks, the new Encyclopedia of Home Repair, and Annie Sloan's Modern Paint Effects. Annie Sloan's the queen of chalk paint, so we use her products quite a bit in makeovers. And finally, I'm adding some flowers, and now it's time to bring in Allie for the reveal. Okay, Allie. Can you just like remind me and the viewers maybe like what the problem that you needed solving was?
Well, I switched my coffee table out for an ottoman. I had more space to lounge, but then I didn't have any surface area for like playing board games or putting food down or drinks and stuff. So I was just hoping for some kind of solution there. Yeah, I also wanted to be able to like store it, so take it off the ottoman and put it away.
Awesome. I think we nailed all of those points that you asked for. You had some great inspo, beautiful photos. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh my God, that is beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow, what the heck? Graham! And the what do you call it, scallop details? That looks so professional.
Thank you. I love how it's like also just so customized to your space.
Oh my God, it matches like the tones of this table too, perfectly. Yeah. Wow.
I'm really excited to get into all the little features.
Yes, please do.
Okay, so it's on wheels. So you can like wheel it closer, further.
What?
It folds up and it stashes under your couch. Just kind of like pull the ottoman out a little bit, and there's these locking hinges. So you just kind of like pull down and the leg
Wow.
folds in.
You thought of everything.
And then it just rolls back.
Wow. Okay. I think it will serve all of my needs. Like I'm imagining every situation, like playing board games, eating on here, like multiple people can eat, drink. This is beautiful. This is like exceeded my expectations 100%. I'm so happy.
Now it's time to talk about what I learned and what I could do differently. First off, this table rocked. I absolutely loved everything about it. I just love how unique this project is. Like to have a table that when it's out looks permanently fixed, but is able to stash away and be completely out of sight. I don't think I would necessarily change anything about this. Everything that Allie talked about, I feel we accomplished. I loved how I got to buy new quality materials, build something from scratch, space-saving hacks from Amazon like the locking hinges, while upcycling some old vintage antique brass wheels. I think it just kind of like checks all the boxes of like what this series kind of represents. So let me know what you guys think about the table in the comments down below. And also, if you live in Toronto and have a problem in your space that you need a solution for, be sure to apply down below for Help Me Handyman Graham. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me on this adventure, episode 3 of Help Me Handyman Graham. I will see you guys next time. Bye.